Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Between Two Burns is back.
It's back.
We made it safely back from New Orleans, Louisiana. Nolans.
It was a little questionable there for a little bit.
For a few minutes there. We had a good time. This is Between Two Burns episode.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I got to keep track of these. Now it's at least 9, maybe 10. We may be a
double digits.
We may be a double digits pod. So like we said, we're back from New Orleans. We're going to do this little podcast today. I think we talked about it, kind of a shoot the breeze in the cigar business for this quick pod. Get everybody a nice, shop talk. A little what's grinding your gears kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, we may be here all night.
Yeah, that's true. But first, you got us 2 super special cigars to smoke for tonight's episode. So
yeah, something we hadn't talked about on the podcast.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance because it came between kind of. We knew about it, but didn't know when it was coming. It's years in the making. But I'm going to let you run with this because it's your favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, so this is Pete Johnson's 50th birthday cigar. So a little backstory here. These cigars were rolled in 2020. And when he originally rolled them, he put them in a 50-count cabinet and decided that he was going to age them for an unknown amount of time. Well, after 3 years, in 2023, he decided that he was going to repackage them in 10-count boxes. Now, this was a 100-count. There were 100 boxes of the 50-count cabinets made, so now there were 500 boxes of the 10-count boxes.
Yep.
He then sat on them for another 2 years, basically, and then finally released them. It is the banding on it is the Made in Miami LE band with the Escassos band. It's got the Escassos wrapper leaf on it, but it's definitely higher priming than the regular Escassos. It's a lot darker.
Mm-hmm.
Nicaraguan binders and fillers on it. I don't want to tell you what I think about it because I've had the privilege to smoke a couple of these now.
So you have gone a couple. This is the first one I've got a chance to smoke.
This will be the second Robusto I've smoked.
Okay.
And I've smoked 1 Toro. So I'm very curious. I'm very curious of your thoughts on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we just started it, so I'll reserve my thoughts as we go through it. But
now, one thing
great start to it.
Yeah, one thing I will say about it, I mean, you know how much it cost already, and I don't think you'll let it sway your opinion of the actual how the cigar tastes. I do wish it was less expensive.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and I get it. It had 5 years of age on it. They were made in Miami. There were only 500 boxes, but this Robusto retailed for $53, and the Toro for $55. Now, we are out of them already, so if you're listening to this and you want one, I'm sorry. We don't have any more. Thankfully, we got them in and out the door. A lot of tap people, including myself, were really looking forward to it because Pete's been talking about it for 5 years now.
And this is one of those ones where I would encourage you, if you do want to get it, to reach out to another shop or something like that because they were so limited. It's going to be the only way. We're not going to see them again, to my knowledge. So if you want to get your hands on one, that's going to be the way to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I'll reserve my opinions on it, but was really excited to get it. Didn't know it was coming. Shipped right before PCA, I think, and then we got it right after. It was like the week after. It was very closely related, but it wasn't a part of this PCA.
No.
It was just this only went to the best Tat accounts. Thankfully, Tat takes great care of us. And so we got 5 of each size, 5 boxes of each size. But, yeah, I'm curious to see what you think about it.
Yeah, the start on it's great so far. It starts off kind of maybe more medium than I would have expected.
So it's very,
for me personally,
it's very medium. It's very Cuban-esque.
Yeah.
The other word that I would use to describe it is elegant. I think it's a very elegant smoke. I think there's a lot of nuance to it.
I really like it when you use the seductive words to describe stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to it. The thing that I was worried about, and I actually found out that Pete was a little worried about, is if he held them too long.
So that's a reasonable fear.
Yeah.
If what you wanted the cigar to be is what you initially rolled it as, and I don't mean like the day after you rolled it, but after its
been 5 years.
Initial aging period, because this wasn't. They weren't expecting. I guess my point is to hold it for that long.
Yeah, and I mean he made this for his 50th birthday, so I have to imagine this blend is what he wanted or was close to what he wanted on his 50th birthday. So to hold them for almost another 5 years after that, cigars are going to change. But our good friend Mike, who was on the last podcast, Pete actually reached out to him personally and asked Mike how they were doing, how they were smoking. Because
after he smoked the ones.
Yeah, after he posted that video, he posted on Instagram, because he knows Mike will shoot him straight, and he told Mike, "I'm worried I held them too long."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad to see it held up. It's still got great body and great flavor.
What was Mike's response to it?
That he held up great.
Yeah,
I mean, the cigars were humidified well throughout the process. They were in gold foil wrap inside the boxes. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah. So
I saw them through Mike's post.
Yeah.
Yeah, because by the time I saw them here in our store, they were gone.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to New Orleans, took a trip with my family, and they were gone in that week. So I never got to lay eyes on them personally.
Yeah.
We're here. So what I saw them on the unpackaging was what Mike did on his Instagram and everything.
Yeah. So they were no cello, in a ribbon inside gold foil in the box, and I assume that's how they've aged, at least for the last 2 years.
I would assume so. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be curious to see what you think about it. And before we move on, since you asked, I got to tell people what I'm drinking tonight, and I have to thank somebody. I have to thank somebody publicly on the podcast for it. So thank you to our good friend David Gillette, who is the most generous person that I know.
Yeah.
Got me this bottle of Jack Daniel's 14 year, which everybody listening knows I wanted really, really bad. For my birthday.
Is that bottle?
This is that bottle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Let me see.
Got it for me for my birthday, and it is spectacular. Probably already a contender for the Stogie Whiskey of the Year. I can tell you that.
Really?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Early Oscar nomination. Award.
It's kind of like Sinners, which you need to go see.
Award season. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're always drinking the bourbon. I'm usually drinking beer or wine. Winston-Salem, North Carolina's own Wise Man, the Putter's Pale Ale. One of my favorite core line IPAs.
No frills.
Yep. Good
pale ale.
IPA. I love the packaging. It's got the master's look to it, which I'm a sucker for. But Wise Man does a great job. This is a good beer. This is an everydayer right here.
Yeah, it's really good. So PCA.
Yeah, so I want to talk, like I said, I want to talk to this episode. We did the 2 recap episodes, so we're not going to maybe harp too much on it, but I wanted to, now that we're kind of, we're 2 weeks.
Had time to digest it.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks removed from it, digest it. First things first, you kind of gave it a 9 out of 10, I think, if I remember correctly. This was your first PCA.
Yeah.
We talked about that. You've been to TPE and stuff like that before. Now you kind of come back through it, everything like that. Would you still kind of keep it in that realm for your first time? I feel like a lot of your good expectations were met at the show. I don't feel like you overhyped it for yourself.
No, I didn't, and I hyped it pretty good. I mean, I was really excited. One misconception that I had initially, and I knew going into it because I talked to you, this wasn't going to be the case, but like as a consumer, my thought with PCA was you go and you get to try all the new cigars and you're smoking cigars all day. It is not that.
No.
And that is
you are
one
smoking cigars all day, but yeah.
But that was certainly a misconception that I wanted to clear up, because a lot of customers came in and asked, how was PCA? Did you get to smoke a lot of cigars? And it's like, yeah, I did, but we brought back most of the samples that we got while we were there, especially of the new stuff that we wanted to smoke on a clean palate, because it's like, I wasn't going to smoke Perdomo Legacy on dirty palate after smoking 3 or 4 cigars. My father blew, the new Warp stuff. I didn't want to do it. So that was a misconception I had early on in my career. I didn't have it going into it, but it wasn't just laissez-faire go around smoking cigars all day. It is business. I mean, we were in meetings all day, every day. But as a rating number, I think PCA is going to be a 9 out of 10 as a thing. I have mixed feelings on New Orleans now that we're back, and I've kind of digested it. The food was really good.
Yep.
The vibe was cool, but after the second night there, it was kind of like not dirty, but like it wasn't.
Yeah, and for what PCA is, I just think Las Vegas really fits it well because of the gatherings after hours, after the show is over. So much gets done. Especially if you're trying to introduce new account and meet people.
Yeah.
So much of that is done after 6 o'clock, generally speaking. And if I found it much harder to do those things in New Orleans than Las Vegas for obvious logistical reasons, where in Las Vegas you can come down to your hotel, you can meet up with people at the bar, which you obviously can meet up with people at bars in New Orleans, but smaller venues, hard to squeeze the large groups from PCA in, spread out around the city. So it just made it a little bit harder. I think it made it harder for manufacturers to do maybe like dinners and that type of thing and larger gatherings. We saw fewer of those. There were still those that got done and everything like that.
Well, and I think it was one of those things too where if you don't want to run into people, it's great.
Oh
right?
yeah, you can.
And so we didn't have to worry about not running into somebody we didn't want to see. If at 6 o'clock
in the evening you want to be done with the show and you want to wait till the next day and you just want to do your other thing, that's a perfect spot for that because you'd be on the other side of the town in a restaurant and everything like that. Where in Vegas, it's much harder to get away from everybody if that's what you want to do.
But I will say one of my favorite things was the very last night after our dinner, we went to Manning's and we ran into Josh from Burners there. Great guy, Burners, great shop. We've got 3 locations now, closer to Charlotte. If you're ever out that way, go say hi, tell them we sent you.
Check them out.
But we got to talk to Josh for, I don't know, an hour and a half, and it was just by coincidence that he was out there.
Yep.
But I love that because I'd never met the guy. It was cool to talk shop with him. Like, that was a really cool, like, swapping stories, sharing experiences thing. And I feel like we definitely missed out on maybe a little bit more of that in Vegas.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying maybe that's not a bad thing. I don't know. I've never been to Vegas. You can speak to that better than I can.
I much preferred it there.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas. Yeah. Just because of that exact thing. It's like, on the Friday night you could bump into a group of people. Saturday night a different group of people. Or Saturday you could skip it all, go to dinner, and then come back to that. Where the Mannings had a good crowd of people there, but you had to get down there.
And it was a haul.
Yeah, it took a second to get down there. It was a long walk from where we were. Well,
and it's like our very own Stogie Award winner himself, Franklin, good friend of ours, and we only saw him at the show. Like, I'd have loved to have hang out with him and had a drink with him while we were there, not worried about work or him dealing with other people.
Yeah,
that just wasn't. I mean, if we'd have texted it and had some coordinated efforts.
But there was no kind of organic, naturally just bumping into anybody.
Correct.
You had to make a concerted effort to do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, but the food was great.
Food was good. Food was good that we had. I don't think anything topped the breakfast you had at Bearcat CBD.
God bless that place. Homemade biscuit, piece of fried chicken, crawfish gravy, and a sunny side up egg. And it was 10 out of 10. It was incredible. PCA party was awesome.
PCA
the opening night party was awesome.
Probably weather worked out in PCA's favor.
Yes.
It could have been a completely different vibe and show if we got rain.
Yep.
So that was my favorite PCA opening night that I've been to.
Okay.
It's much more, I don't know, buttoned up, I think, the ones that are in Las Vegas. Now, the TPE one's a completely different story. We've gone to that before. But it kind of ticked the New Orleans boxes, right?
Yep.
Where you're in the, near the French Quarter, wide open park, gated in with like the old black iron fence, tons of people there. It was 70 degrees with not a cloud in the sky, maybe 68, 69. Perfect. Everybody's had a great time. They had music going. The food there was great, cocktails and everything like that. Handing out cigars, get to smoke. We bumped into people there. That was great. Like if you could rinse and repeat that each night for a gathering somewhere, that would have been great.
Yeah.
And I think they tried that a little bit. But that was a highlight for me. The show floor, the vibe, I thought, and we talked about this with a lot of people, thought the vibe was really good for the show itself. Like in during floor hours, pretty similar setup to Las Vegas. The way the showroom floor is set up in Vegas is more squared, right? Kind of equidistant on all sides. Where this was a much longer rectangular shape, the way they had the floor set up and how that convention center is. So it was a haul from one end to the
Yeah,
other from the food hall end down to the.
I check my steps at the end of every day. Now, mind you, this was also including walking around downtown and the casino and everything we did at night. But the first day we walked 9 miles, and the second day we walked 8. But I would venture to say at least 2/3, if not 3/4 of that was on the showroom floor.
Oh,
we were
certainly.
walking back and forth so much.
Yeah, so it made for an interesting dynamic where if you were at the show, now you can kind of interpret this in a couple different ways. The bigger brands were centralized. They paid for the centralized locations in the middle of the floor.
Yep.
Right.
And they almost served as landmarkers.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing in Vegas too, especially depending on who it is. Like when you can see from a distance the Fuente kind of round things that they hang from the ceiling and stuff like that, kind of orient yourself in there. But everybody we talked to that had those centralized locations, the response was the same. Like, man, shows the vibe is good. Like people everywhere. Seems like attendance is up and everything like that. Those who didn't pay up for a more centralized location maybe had smaller booths or maybe were out on the outer fringes of that rectangle, maybe down near the food court, and then down where they had they always had, like every night they had kind of happy hour from, I think, 5 to 6, the last hour, where they set up a little cocktail bar down there. Those booths were, the response you get was like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It seems I feel like those people that we talked to, they noticed more so this year than the Vegas show that they were on the outer edges.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? That it felt like we're kind of like people looking like, oh, what's going on down there? Who? Oh, it's just this and this, that. And, you know, obviously everybody can't be at the middle. That costs more. That's just how those things work. You know, how much space you want, where you want the space to be is what it costs. I would venture to guess that those people in the middle saw a direct return on their dollars for buying centralized locations.
Yeah. One thing I will say, though, I'd love to know, and we'll never know, right? Because every single company is going to say they had a good show, even if they didn't, because that's just
that's how it goes. Yeah, that's how it goes.
But I did talk to someone yesterday, and I'm not going to mention the name. I'll tell you after the pod, who said that their show was just okay.
Interesting.
And they were centralized and had a big booth, and they're a fairly well-known company. And I don't know if that's because of people not buying. I don't know if that's because they're not a company that runs very aggressive show deals. Like, they're not a company that has to make their nut for that quarter at the show. Yeah. So I don't know. The only other complaint I heard from people is it sounded like not as many West Coast retailers were there, which is comical to me because it's like New Orleans is still closer to you than Miami, and it's like we're going to Vegas every single year, so let's have a little compromise here. But I don't know if it's true. That's just what people told us.
And I think they would generally know because, you know, the retailers that they're booking, and you can tell if your West Coast reps have less appointments than your East Coast, or if they're available to do more overflow work. There isn't a location that's going to make everybody happy.
No.
That I'm aware of. Maybe there is. I doubt it. So that was always the thing in Las Vegas is they felt like there were less East Coast companies going out to Las Vegas than they would like to see. And then worried about, well, if we take it to Miami or Tampa or wherever it may be, that we're worried about the West Coast attendance. I agree with you. Like, New Orleans, Central Time Zone state. We're not that far from Texas. It can't be. I mean, there should be plenty of direct flights, I would think, from the West Coast coming in to New Orleans. But it's a haul. I mean, you know, I think the ones that you're probably missing from the West Coast are the folks who are probably able to drive into Vegas, who do it that way. Right. So stores coming out of Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, whatever it may be, stores out of Southern California. I mean, Los Angeles is only 4.5 hours straight drive to Las Vegas. So, you know, San Diego, that kind of thing. You're fairly close in the Colorado states and stuff like that. So there's probably a lot of West Coasters who can drive into Las Vegas who maybe they come in early Saturday morning, they do the show for Saturday, they stay one night, do the show for Sunday, and they drive on home.
I'd be interested to know, too.
But you also probably picked up East Coast retailers.
Yeah, I did. It did seem like...
We have one of our reps who... I actually thought he lived somewhere else, but he drove from Atlanta.
Yeah.
It was about 5.5 hours, I think he said, from Atlanta.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So you have...
Kyle had his guys driving from Miami.
Really?
I think. Yeah,
Warp
remember?
guys?
Yeah, because the Warp guys one of the guys put the samples in his car and drove it. Now, I don't know how far it is from Miami to New Orleans, but I'm sure it's a hike, but it's not Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting to see. But one thing I'd like to know is like, and I'm not trying to make this an East Coast, West Coast thing, but I know. This is Biggie and Tupac.
Biggie here.
That's
right.
What's
side?
All of the states that have no tobacco tax where the big online retailers are located are on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they were more happy or less happy or if they really care. And I wonder from a dollar perspective what you're gaining or losing versus West Coast or East Coast people coming. I don't know, and it may not matter because the big guys are going regardless. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to think about.
This is a question I don't have the answer for, and maybe you bumped into somebody or saw a tag or something like that. From PCA, I haven't bumped into any of those people. So I wonder if they even attend in a buying fashion or if they attend casually to look around or attend at all, like for that sense, or if a lot of their deals are negotiated outside of that, I guess.
And it may be the only, and
I know I saw one of the guys who works high up for JR, the guy who hosts the Long Ash podcast. I saw him there. But I don't know if he's responsible for buying or not. That's a question for him. I don't know.
We did run into the Smoke Inn guys, which Smoke Inn isn't quite level of CI, JR, Thompson, Atlantic, but they're still fairly big.
Yeah, Smoke Inn, Abe, and those guys.
Abe was
and he's very, I think, involved in PCA, involved in sponsorship of it because he is a retailer like that. So you're always going to see him there. Yeah.
But outside of that, it was a lot of fun. It was really good. Interesting note, and I don't think we've talked about this because we didn't see it. The opening night, which was Friday, I guess, before the party, the governor of Louisiana actually opened up the show. And according to producer Greg, who was there photographing for some companies, the governor lit up a cigar on the stage and thanked PCA for being there and said he was going to do a better job of making it more smoker friendly. Which was interesting, and I mean, I don't know how much pull he does or doesn't have, but I'd be interested to see next year if there's not more places to smoke, because realistically, there were like 4 places to smoke after hours. It was the 3 cigar shops and then the Manning's place.
Yeah.
And obviously...
and I don't know how many people attended the others. Cuban Creations seemed to be very busy.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. We didn't get a chance to go. We walked by.
Yep.
We were doing other things. They hosted everybody in there. It's not tiny, but it's not huge either. You can't hold 1,000 people in there, but I know that some of the different manufacturers kind of held after hours parties there. I know Herklotz did a Ferriotego thing there, I think on Sunday night.
Yep.
It looked like a lot of fun and stuff like that. So, but the other ones, I don't know how much overflow or attendance was there, because I know that Manning's hosted a good amount of people. They had a great outdoor spot to accommodate everybody with a pass-through bar.
But that's another thing. It's like, if it had been raining,
you'd been screwed.
Manning's, it wouldn't have mattered because it was open air.
And I was going to touch on it earlier, and I think I passed over it, but if they get any rain, if they have a weekend of rain, obviously you're inside for the show itself. It really dampers. Weather is out of your control.
Yep.
But it dampers the overall view of the show.
Listen, if it was raining all weekend, as much walking as we did and whatnot, it would have sucked. Like, I don't really
might
know
not have gone anywhere.
That's what I was going to say.
We Ubered and stuff like that, and we did because you kind of had to.
Yep.
and gotten in and out really quick.
Yeah,
but,
we'd have done some dinners and stuff, but there wouldn't have been any walking around New Orleans.
well, like you said, Manning's would have
been.
been closed to cigar smoking because they had cigar smoking, but it was not inside. They had this big outside patio, really cool. Probably awesome to hang out and watch football in, actually, with big TVs out there. And I don't think they allow smoking otherwise.
No, it sounded like they made an exception for
yeah.
PCA, which thanks for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that,
yeah, I mean, rain, like you said, no pun intended, would have really put a damper on things because getting together, going to smoke, doing really anything. Like New Orleans is a city you want to walk around.
For sure.
Whereas Vegas is a city you walk inside. Like, you're going from casino to casino, but there's so much stuff inside the casinos. You're going to find something
and
to
so
do.
many of them are connected. That you could walk 4 blocks and never exit the buildings.
Yeah, and it's like, in Vegas, you've got shopping, you've got shows, of course you've got gambling, but there's a lot, museums, like, my mom and dad just went to Vegas, and I think my mom put like $2 in a slot machine. Of course, she won $50 and walked away with it.
Mrs. Bots.
But like, they did the Mobster Museum. They did the Wax Museum. They did see the Eagles at the Sphere. I'm jealous about that. But like, my point being is like, they didn't go to gamble. They went to go see it and do all the other stuff. And so when you're at PCA, like, there's all that other stuff. Whereas New Orleans, it's like, you've got the casino. We got to go to the Pelicans Heat game, but that was just because they were playing that night.
Yep.
And then after that, it's like you're walking up and down the street just looking to bump into a bar or something like that. And it's like there's just not as much going on.
And I like a party as much as the next guy, but it was a party going on at all times. If you catch my drift.
All times, yeah. The French Quarter Festival was going on, which it was. I mean, there were just so many people we couldn't even see it, but yeah, it was fun. But I am excited for it to be back in Vegas in 2 years. I'll be interested.
Yeah,
to
so
see
we're
how
back
it
in
is
New Orleans
next
next year, and then it's for 2 years in Vegas, correct? And then back to New Orleans after that. So I guess that would be 26 in New Orleans, 27, 28 in Vegas, and then 29 back to New Orleans. Give me no Vegas, no New Orleans. Give me a city that you think that you would be excited to go to, that would really do well with a trade show like that could match the vibe. I know the one I would say.
Obviously, Miami.
Miami's the one I would say.
Yeah.
Now we asked around like this. Evidently, the Miami Convention Center and how it's set up, where it's at, makes for a bit of a logistic issue and may not be as fun as maybe you think it would be to be in Miami.
Yeah, and from what we were told, traffic in Miami is just horrendous to begin with, so it may not be great getting around Miami. Yeah. Someone mentioned Atlanta. I don't know. I mean, if we're gonna do Atlanta, like Charlotte's not as big as Atlanta, but like let's have it in Charlotte and just be a close to home kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
you and I have been to Atlanta a bunch of times because we live close to Atlanta. So
it's like,
I mean, Atlanta's a nice place and has a lot of cigar shops, so they could make for that. I don't know what their convention center looks like. I've never been to that.
I'd love to see one in maybe Dallas or Texas or something like that.
Texas, I think, has
now that's partially because I've never been and I've always wanted to go, so that's a little selfishly. But I feel like it'd be fun.
It does feel like an Austin. One could be really cool. But yeah, the South Florida one is the most appealing, I think, from an outsider. I don't serve on the PCA, so I can't speak to they could show me the stuff. This is why it just looks, is a terrible idea or just doesn't work as well. The opportunity, again, this is coming from the retailer perspective, but the opportunity, if you're a manufacturer who has your offices down there, and in some cases like rollers down there, plenty of warehousing, to open your doors to retailers, come take a look. See what happens in here. Like, why sometimes, like, if you don't get your order as fast as you wanted it, why that can happen. Like look at our systems, enjoy the time in here. See, meet the people that you talk to. Yeah. Because a lot of times, generally speaking, the people we talk to a lot at these places, you don't see them at PCA.
Yeah.
Right? We see our rep in a lot of cases. That's our direct contact and probably the most. And then you see manufacturer owners, generally speaking, right? We meet Nick Perdomo, we see Nicholas, we see Pete, we see Dion, whoever it may be. But you don't see Maritza or anybody, Gigi or somebody like that who's when we have a problem, who we get to talk to and that handles those things. So putting a name to that face would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And we get listen, we could go down there and do that on our own. Like they all would open the doors and say hello and go through all those things. But a one-time shot there and do that kind of thing, it would be awesome to go to an invited event at, let's say, Perdomo.
Yeah.
Got your warehouse, you open it up, you got tables and music going and stuff like that. And obviously there is a logistical issue in that kind of thing. But, people are Ubering in and out and coming there, but doing a Saturday night party in the Perdomo warehouse, in fact, not factory, but their warehouse and offices would be really cool. And a chance to kind of, for people who maybe don't get to go on factory tours, see a little bit of how the sauce is made, if that makes sense. Yep. But again, they might, they very well tell Jason, like, I appreciate the idea. We don't want to do that. We don't want to open our doors. We got enough going on. We don't need a bunch of people walking through and bitching and complaining like, why don't you keep this? Well, there's the figurados I ordered. Why aren't they shipped out? That kind of thing. And like you said, the convention center, you still got to have the show as the show is, one big centralized location.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we could go on about this for days, but the people care about the cigars.
Yeah.
And so my question for you, and I know because you're a generous guy that you gave away a lot of your samples to the guys here when you got back, so you didn't get to smoke quite everything that I did because I'm a selfish bastard and I smoked them all.
Hell yeah.
What was your favorite thing that you smoked now that you've had time to maybe smoke some other stuff and think about it?
Apologize for the coughing. Still trying to get over it. I would say that now that I'm away from it, and I'd actually, because I was on vacation, I took some stuff with me, didn't get a chance to smoke. We had a whole bunch of families, so you try to accommodate everybody, so you're not doing that. It's actually one we don't carry.
No kidding.
Yeah. I think my favorite cigar that I smoked at the show was the Dominion.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you and I smoked a different one of those. You smoked the Shaggy Foot one.
I smoked the
right?
Shaggy Foot one. And I couldn't tell you the makeup or anything of it or anything like that. I just remember being so pleasantly surprised.
Was it Domain or Dominion?
Dominion.
It is Dominion.
Or Domain. No, Domain.
Domain.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not Dominion. Sorry. Domain. Yeah.
You smoked a lot of cigars. That's okay.
Domain. I don't even know if there is a Dominion cigar. Domain. I'm sorry. That one, yes, it was. I don't know anything about it. I just remember being like so, and we were encouraged by multiple people to go check it out, and then people that we said, "Hey, we're going over Domain," like, "Oh yeah, I've heard good things." I think that may have been my favorite. Now, to be fair, I didn't smoke Legacy. I gave that to Robbie to smoke. He really liked it. That was probably the one that I wanted to smoke the most, but I want to make sure he got some of the stuff that was new down there to smoke.
I gave him some stuff.
Did you? Good.
I did.
Blue was great.
Yep.
I thought Blue was very, very good. The My Father Blue, the new Honduran. I'm excited for that. I think that will do really well. I love the packaging of it. And that more met my expectations. I expected it to be good based on who was making it, the quality that manufacturer is and everything like that. So you kind of expect that to be good. And when it's good, you're like, yeah, absolutely. You're doing what you do. And that's not to say that Domain doesn't always make good cigars. It's just we don't have them. I heard people talking about it. And it caught me, maybe not quite as off guard as the Chinese fellas with their cigars caught you off guard. But
did you get to smoke any of those?
I gave both those away. I gave one to David, both Davids.
I
gave one to both Davids.
Oh, you did.
David Gillette and David Robertson. The other one I really liked? I actually smoked this playing golf the other day in that tournament. The West Tampa Lancero.
So I gave mine away. Funny
was
enough.
Really good.
I gave mine
another
to
brand we don't carry. So I can tell you right now.
Well, we might be.
We might be. That's on the list of things that we were impressed with. That was really good, especially kind of under the circumstances for which I was smoking it, which was riding around in a golf cart. We've talked about this in one of our early podcasts. Like, that's not the greatest environment for really getting, the nuances out of a cigar. But I remember getting done with it being like, oh, dang, I'm done.
Yeah. I gave mine to Adam Wolf. That's how I gave it to.
Oh, did you? Do you know if he smoked it? Yeah, I'd be really interested to see
I hadn't.
what his
I hadn't
feedback
asked
is
him.
on it.
I saw him at the Winston store, and we actually smoked this cigar together at the Winston store. And he was asking me about new stuff, and I happened to have it with me, so I gave it to him to smoke. But that's good. I will say that I'm very sad you did not smoke the Perdomo Legacy because it was my favorite cigar from the show.
Really?
Damn
it, Robbie.
That is coming from somebody who likes Perdomo fine.
But it's not something you gravitate
But I
towards.
do not smoke Perdomo
You
that
have
often.
the utmost respect for their quality
Absolutely.
control and everything
yeah, and
like
I
that. But
recommend them every single day.
100%.
But it's not my wheelhouse. That cigar was unreal.
So, and I kept making the mistake of, because we're so ingrained in the Perdomo, X line, 4 sizes, and then Connecticut, sun-grown, Maduro. So I kept making the mistake of referring to it as a sun-grown, knowing it wasn't.
Yeah.
But if somebody's listening for the first time and didn't get to PCA recap, kind of remind them about the makeup of that one.
So it's a hybrid Corojo Cameroon wrapper leaf that's proprietary to Perdomo that they shade grow. So just like this wrapper leaf, this Corojo shade grown on this Pete Johnson 50th, it's the same process. It was bold, it was flavorful, and most importantly, and my biggest gripe with Perdomo, is that it was complex. There was nuance and change to it. And that, like, Perdomo cigars have good core flavors, but you know what you're going to get with them, which is why people like them so much. They're consistent.
Yeah, they're consistent.
The flavors are good, and they know what they're going to get.
And these are not negatives.
No, absolutely not. That's how you build a brand in this industry is consistency.
That's that successful, yes.
Yep. But the legacy was awesome. And the interesting thing about it is, so we obviously smoke the natural shade grown, but what they're doing is on the Connecticut and the Maduro, those wrapper leaves aren't natural shade grown. So what they're doing is they're taking that wrapper leaf and they're using it as the binder in those cigars. So it's going to be a Connecticut wrapper, that binder, and the Nicaraguan fillers, and then
the binder is the shade grown.
Is the shade grown Cameroon Corojo.
Cameroon
Yep.
Corojo.
So I can't wait to smoke them because the funny thing about it, I didn't even smoke it at home. Normally, like, the stuff I'm really excited for, I smoke it at home so I can sit down, pay attention to it, not get interrupted with customers. I smoked it here, and I relit the damn thing 5 times, and it was awesome.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait for you to smoke it. Can't wait to get it in here. I think it's going to go gangbuster. But it was really good. My second favorite cigar, go figure, was the Tatuaje 7th Corojo.
So that was really good too.
That was a great
That
cigar.
was really, 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 really
good. That is my wheelhouse.
That was another one though, and I it's unfair to grade it like this. It's like, it's like when you look back and you talk about sports, like you could have just given Michael Jordan the MVP every year. Like there's an expectation that comes out of Tatuaje that
it should be good.
Supposed to be good.
Yep.
And again, that's not a negative. It's just because you make bangers, man.
Yep.
So to have another one that's like, yup, banger.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Now, obviously, I spoke about this on the recap. The biggest surprise to me was the Chamali Chinese guys. I am still blown away by that cigar. I haven't actually talked to.
Have you done any post PCA research on them yet?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, and they've actually reached out to me, sent me an email, and
that's nice.
I didn't email them back. I didn't have the heart to let them down. But I mean, dude, that cigar was awesome. It was so good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes PCA cool and fun. Like, you never would have bumped into Chamali.
That was the highlight of the show of being at PCA for me. It was like finding, because I told you,
something cool and something new. Yeah,
I told you to be able to actually hit and explore the booths that we don't carry. We almost need to do the third day. Right, because the first and second day we are in meetings every 30 minutes almost.
That's the thing. Like if you're if you're kind of wondering what the process looks like when we go to these things, and it's not the same for everybody. You know, some smaller shops go in a very casual way, and they just walk around. They don't make any appointments. They walk around. They say hello. They collect some samples. Maybe they bump into their rep who they know, or maybe they just don't have those. You know, maybe they buy from distribution or whatever it is. We have partners in this business. Like we talk about this when we talk about the humidor. Like everybody who's in here is a partner of ours. We don't put anything in the humidor that we don't believe is a additive to the people who walk through the door. So, and sometimes it's kind of what I have to tell people when we have a customer's like, why don't you carry this? Or like, you're getting this. It's like, listen, our humidor is packed to the gills. And if a manufacturer says to me, I want to come in, I want to be on your shelves, you just have to do 12 boxes, to a customer who says that, it's like, for 12 boxes to come in, the reality is 12 boxes have to come out.
Yeah, and I wanted to speak on that too.
Those 12 boxes have to sell.
Yeah, because that was always my question before I started working here was like, okay, you guys said West Tampa and Domain and Chamali were awesome. Why not bring them in? And it's like, we can't.
Yeah, there's just at times that we can't. We tried creative ways, and I think we're going to try some creative ways with a couple of those brands. But we can see our sales. We know what sells. And if you're going to take something out of that humidor, typically that thing sells. It may not sell at the same rate that other things do. That's just how retail works. But you need to know that you can replace those sales with what you bring in.
Yep.
In West Tampa, Domain, Chamali, certainly, you want to introduce these to customers, but they may not have the backing or the brand awareness that helps you to sell this. The cigar business has these kind of very, very different facets to the sales, right? But brand awareness across where consumers consume this content, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, magazines, emails, or whatever it is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Huge part of it. And then, your guys' expertise as well is a huge part of it.
Well, and that's the thing with like Chamali. And this is where, when going to PCA, I have to take my cigar geek hat off and put my cigar retailer hat on.
Yep.
Because I would love to bring Chamali in, to have them, to smoke them, to share them with people so people can experience it. But those cigars all retail for $16.
Yeah.
So that tells me a couple things. One, it excludes a lot of buyers.
Yep.
And two, it means building a brand in a humidor where nobody's heard of it with a price point that people aren't as willing to take a chance on it.
It also puts you in a group, right?
Yep.
It puts you in this group, $16. What else is running in the $16 range?
And the obvious answers are Perdomo, some Don Carlos Fuentes, Iron Ashens, the Perdomo 30, the Perdomo 12-year.
Yeah.
And there's obvious comparisons that are going to be made. Now, do I think that the Chamali is just as good as those are? I do, actually.
Yeah.
But, again, convincing a consumer, especially when we're dealing with tariffs and price increases and the economy's the way it is and people are uncertain of how things are going to go, to spend $16 on a cigar is tough. And so it's like, okay, well, if we're going to put this $16 cigar on the shelf, what can we take off that's not selling or I think is going to sell at the same rate? And the answer is probably nothing, right?
Yeah.
And that sucks because if we had a humidor that was big enough to do it, then I just told you that day, like, we need to go back and see these guys tomorrow and figure out what we have to do to open an account because this is awesome. Like, this is something cool we can offer our customers. But if we took Perdomo 12-year off the shelf to do it, people would be freaking pissed and we would be losing money. And we can't do that.
A consumer may say, well, that doesn't sell as well as, let's use the Perdomo 12, and but you have this other here that doesn't sell as well as the Perdomo 12. Take that out. There's also a mix in there, right?
Yep.
It can't all be the same stuff. Not everybody smokes the same things. We have a mix of Dominican. We have a mix of Nicaraguan. We've got a mix of Honduran.
And that's the thing with these brands we're talking about too. Just real quick, didn't mean to interrupt you. They're all Nicaraguan.
Mm-hmm.
right? Chamale uses Aganorsa and AJ Tobacco, who we have long-standing relationships with that do sell really well. So it's like, what are we doing to differentiate? Domain, they're not made at Nico Sueño, but their master blender was the same blender that used to be at Roma Craft. So we already have Roma Craft. So what are we doing?
So that was an important point you were making right there, and I kind of add on to it, which is you were at least led to believe that Chamale, we'll keep using them as an example, was using AJ and Aganorsa tobacco.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a very good reason why that stands to be good. They're using very good tobacco from two very good companies for which we support.
Yep.
We support Aganorsa very heavily. We love Aganorsa. We do projects with them all the time. We'll talk about Aganorsa a little bit later in this podcast. We've got a great podcast coming up with them next week. We support AJ stuff. They make a lot of things, or a lot of things are made with their tobaccos across the industry. And I don't want to say they all taste the same, but the vibe is there, if that makes sense, right? Do you know what I mean?
So
like,
I've got a good example. El Artista, El Pupo comes to mind. It's a cigar that was on, it's the Jester that's on the band.
Yes.
It's a cigar that has made Cigar Aficionado's top 25, maybe even top 10, I think 2 or 3 years in a row. We have smoked them. They're very good. They're more expensive than AJ, but AJ also takes very good care of us. Mm-hmm. Like AJ, I don't think we've ever talked about it on this podcast, but we sometimes refer to it as manufacturers buying shelf space. Like, if we're going to put your cigars on the shelf, what are you going to do for us? We're going to give you 10% of our humidor. What kind of deals or discounts or events can we do to help us incentivize selling your product? Yep. And when these companies do that, we're jeopardizing the relationship that we have with them if we take their product off the shelf to replace it with another product from another company that's still being made by them. Like, yeah, they're getting paid on it, but not really, right?
Right.
And so it's tough. You know, something like West Tampa is different, where Rick Rodriguez, who was at CAO for a long time, has started his own company. Like, yeah, big bro guy.
Bro.
He reminded me of Eric Espinosa. Bro.
Super nice guy. Talk to him.
A lot of bros.
A lot of bros. Bro.
Or like Fratello with Omar, right? Like, that is something new and fresh that it doesn't take away from the humidor, it adds to it. And I'm not saying Chamale or Domain or West Tampa or any insert company here is going to take away from the humidor, but if there's a chance that it could, and it's going to jeopardize these relationships that are well established, then that is something we have to take into heavy consideration before putting it in there.
Yeah. And the reality is, too, again, not knocking on the Chamale guys, but like, when you're doing that and you're using the others, there becomes this price correction that comes with it, because you've got to buy from them. Maybe they're making for you, stuff like that. And suddenly it starts ticking up like that. And then that's how you end up with $16 retail made with Aganorsa, or just Aganorsa for 11 or 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's because I'll be honest with you, if Chamale was retail $12 across the board, I'd have still told you we need to go talk to them and seriously consider it, because it was that good and it was different, right? Like, Aganorsa stuff, Viaje, Illusione, and some Warp stuff, if it's got Corojo in it and a little Criollo and it's made at Aganorsa, you kind of know what it's going to taste like depending on who's blending it. Well, these guys did something different, and I appreciate that. But again, at $16, if I'm an Aganorsa smoker, I'm just going to buy Validation or JFR, because I can get 2 JFR Robustos for the price of 1 Chamale, right?
So that always ends up being the point. And it's like, even if you go, I'll say it until somebody stops me. I think the best value in our humidor, or one of the best values, because it's kind of across the board, the 1000 series of Padrones, are really, really up there. And it's like, could I buy 2 3,000s or 4,000s for the price of 1 Chamale or whatever it is? You start having to especially when we might be talking about economics soon again. You know, that if we talk about what the clouds were over the show overall, we touched on this, excuse me, on our day one pod, there was a clear cloud from the AJ fire, right? Because of the number of manufacturers affected by it. Well, one manufacturer, but the other brands affected by it. And then the tariff situation, the influx it in. Some seem to be very much embracing that they get to raise prices. Some being very transparent on, we're going to line item in it, and when it goes away, it'll go away. So there may be some, you know, if Chamale is 16 at the moment, it might be 17. It might be 18 a month or two from now. It may not be. But you start getting up into that air, it's like, sheesh, you know what I mean?
Well, we're back into El Septimo range. Now, I will say this, they are much better cigars than El Septimo, in my opinion. But we saw what happened with El Septimo when we tried to introduce it. There was so much pushback from consumers of like, this cigar is... now, and theirs were more extreme than $16, but still, this cigar is $22. Why shouldn't I just buy a Padron?
Yeah, and they have a whole host of issues, in my opinion. I'm not.
Yeah, it's not a great example, but I just
but
it comes to mind.
The way El Sep seems so falsely manufactured, and I don't mean from the cigar manufacturer. I just mean from the goofy trinkets and
the $25 million Fabergé egg.
Got one coming.
Did you see what Waylon did?
Yeah, I did.
Right. Well, I'm not gonna say what he did because I don't want to. I don't want to indict him.
Got busted for it.
I don't want to get him indicted, but it was funny.
Yeah, it was funny. Excuse me. I'm gonna do that the whole time. We're sick of PCA. Favorite booth visit, or no? Well, let me ask you this. So your first time in, I've gotten a chance to see almost all of those booths as they were. I don't remember anybody being drastically different than they have been in the past. Some people kind of additive to it. Some people maybe even a little bit smaller in some cases. From just from a period, how you like the look of it. What was your favorite booth?
Warped.
Yeah, that was mine too.
Was it?
Yeah, Kyle does a great job with all sorts of things. It was an awesome job with just like this.
It's clean. It's merchandised.
It was clean. It was merchandised. It was bright.
It feels like you're also in a room almost.
It had enough kind of like sophistication and swag to it to kind of match his brand. That I thought, from an aesthetic standpoint, it was one of my favorites for sure.
And that is also my favorite booth visit. And I was going to bring. So
I was going to ask you next. Then, what was your favorite booth visit?
And that's. Everybody listening is probably like, he's just blowing smoke up Kyle's ass right now because, you know, he got company of the year.
We love
but
him.
like, I got to sit down and ask Kyle all my stupid geeky cigar questions for like 20 minutes, and Kyle didn't seem like it was
got a little weird for me for a minute there. You guys were about making out about cigars. I was like, okay.
But he didn't seem like it was a nuisance. Like, I wasn't bothering him by asking. Like, he personally sat down and talked with us and wasn't looking around like some other people or trying to go talk to somebody else.
I was just gonna say,
some other people.
I'm not gonna shout a particular person out.
Yeah.
But there's at least two people who you thought like it was the worst thing in the world to have to do 10 minutes of ordering with us.
Kiss my ass too.
Yeah, sucking dick.
But Kyle, cordially. Cordially. I mean, and like we talked about this with Mike on the last episode. I got to ask Kyle what's the difference between Warped and Gellis and told him what I thought it was, and we were right. Like, the Gellis family stuff is what he likes to smoke, and it's also what he's proudest to put his family's name on. But just being able to ask him that and him being open to letting me ask him that and answer it and take the time to do it, talk about his wine, talk about some other stuff. Can't thank him enough. Like, 100%. that was what I wanted PCA to be. Like, we very briefly got to talk to Pete Johnson. You know, you thanked him for giving us the Wolfman box.
Yep.
But it's not like we got to sit down and talk with Pete. And I'd have loved to do that, but he's a very busy man, and Tatuaje is bigger than Warped. More people want to talk to Pete. But, and that's not a knock on Pete. Like, I'm sure if Pete could do it, he probably would have been willing to do it. He just couldn't.
Yeah.
But going into Warped, it was like, we're a family here. And I hate using that word because that gets thrown around a lot in the cigar industry. Like, cigar industry's family. It's like, no, we're all in competition, my guy. Like, I get it. Like, we're all, like, trying to do this together. But, like, with Kyle, it really felt like We're family. We're building this brand together. We can't wait to see what's happening in the future.
It just feels like he's got his company in the right spot right now.
Yeah, he's
on
awesome.
the tracks that he wants to be on, at the speed that he wants to be on. Not too fast, not too slow, nice, clean going, and it's reflected in what they're doing. The cigars, the look of the booth, the whole 9 yards.
The other one that I actually really enjoyed, and their booth was different than most, was Romacraft. Now, they were in a very bad spot because their booth wasn't a booth, and their booth also wasn't a booth. It was just some banners, but I liked the look of it.
Yep.
And it was more intimate, but it was intimate because they were in a bad spot, so I don't know how that worked out for them, but like...
They've never... I'm trying to think back over the last few years. Their booth has always kind of been like that, the high top tables with a banner, kind of multiple banner backdrop, which I think like if you're going to do the banner, like that look was good. Yeah. And this probably goes to how Mike and
Skip.
Sorry, I was going to say Chip for a second there. Skip, kind of like their vibe overall is like they've never worried about that. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
they're not trying to be Drew or Perdomo
or
Fuente.
They've got their spot, what they're willing to pay for it or whatever it may be. They've got their following. They have this number of cigars and everything like that. But it was a great meeting. Our representative for that company is great.
Guy. Yeah, we got to see Mike, who is probably listening to this podcast. Thanks,
Hopefully.
Mike. Appreciate you. And then honorable mention for me was Rocky Patel, but that was just because they had free beer.
They had beer.
And the singer,
unbelievable musician.
Holy cow, unreal! The range on that guy was nuts.
This gentleman could go Garth Brooks to Usher in a matter
and then
of seconds.
Andre Botticelli. like it was awesome. But outside of Warped, and obviously Oliva, because we watched the Masters at the Oliva booth.
Right, so shout out to Oliva. Matt Mangini, our guy there, he wants us to do more business with him, and I appreciate that. But it was Masters weekend. I'm a huge golf fan. Love the Masters. Probably my favorite sporting event. It's the first time, and I can't even remember. It may be the only time that I wasn't on Sunday, of Masters Sunday, just melting into my couch with food and beer and watching the whole thing. And they weren't the only company, but massive multi-paneled TV setup. Had the Masters on both days. Allowed us to catch the end of it. We saw it.
That was a lot
great.
of fun.
Yeah.
And it was funny hearing the roars from the crowd because obviously everybody was a little delayed.
Some TVs were a little timed differently. Yeah, it was very funny.
When Rory won it. But and same thing with Crux. They spent a lot of money on a very large TV just so they could watch the Masters.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, their booth wasn't big to where we could just sit there and chill out and watch it because I'm sure they wouldn't have minded if we did that. But the Oliva booth was big enough to where it was like, hey, Matt, how you doing? We're going to sit down and watch the Masters. He's like, cool, you want some water or coffee? I appreciate that.
Yep. So Warped was right up there for me for both my favorite kind of look of the booth and booth visit. Again, this is going to sound like another homer pick because of our relationship and how friendly we are with them. The look, the vibe, the feel, and the people, there's no better matchup of all those things than the Foundation booth.
Yeah.
The Foundation booth looks like you would hope Foundation looks. Okay. It's not overly elaborate. But the setup, their kind of wooden sort of boothy picnic table things are great. They have this kind of, they've had it every year at PCA, this kind of glass enclosure right next to their, let's call it their retail register kind of setup. It's not what it is, but where the guys are kind of handing out samples and T-shirts and stuff, where kind of Nick gets kind of on display because he's doing podcast interviews, talking with retailers and everything like that. You kind of get that vibe. The whole feel of it, even though there is, outside of maybe AJ themselves, one of the bigger clouds of the effects of the AJ fire may affect them the most. Unfortunately for them, and then for the retailers kind of downhill. But even with that, like, the booth was electric. Everybody was upbeat. Our guys, Nate, Nathan, Eduardo, Nick and everybody, like, the feel of it is great.
Yeah.
Like, they're playing the foundation music. Like,
the reggae,
if you're a foundation
foundation-y.
person, think of what you would expect, and that's what it is.
Yep.
It does not disappoint. They don't come in with something overly fancy or gaudy for them. They put everybody's wearing the same stuff. They put them in, T-shirts or whatever it is to match up. So theirs was really great. Agnorsa's was good again. Everybody there, again, a partner of ours. Theirs is really great.
I will say, I think the two best merchandise booths were the My Father booth.
My Father's always, that's
And
kind of their,
then-
that's always been their
Yep.
kind of their vibe, how they do it with the towers and everything like that.
And then the Fuente J.C. Newman booth was a sight to behold.
They
It was
do.
impeccable.
No matter how you feel on the Fuente side or whatever, they're obviously a good partner of ours and we do a lot of business. Great setup.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
it was...
They put their stuff on display. They merchandise it. They had coffee going. The whole setup. They do the Newman factory
Yep.
kind of model, just kind of that you can walk through and you see a little bit of history of the company. It's very cool. It's been basically the same since I've been going. They hang a lot from the ceiling down. It looks really cool. They do a really good job. Not a great booth visit and meeting, but Placencia's booth is always nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
They have a great setup. Their meeting was lackluster. Shout out to that person. You know who you are.
Yeah.
I
I will say the weirdest booth was the Miami Cigar Company booth with the hot chick walking around in the panther mask.
Oh yeah, because she was.
I say hot chick. I never saw her face, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, she was
walking
wearing a panther
around in spandex with a really ugly, weird panther mask.
They were attached. But was that a brand that Miami makes for somebody? Is that
No,
what that
that's
was?
a new cigar line.
Oh, it is? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like Outcast or something like that.
Okay.
That was weird. Also, the funniest thing I saw was the other Miami Cigar Company girls and one of their guys walking around and Mr. Newman befriending them.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, I mean, it lived up to expectations. We had really good meetings. Honestly, all our meetings were really good, sans two of them. And it was unfortunate that those two meetings were at the end of the day on Sunday because that put a bit of a damper on things. But walking away from it, like,
Yeah,
it's okay.
I mean, those were two meetings, and we won't have to. Well, I just named one of them, but I won't name the other one. But these were nothing to do with us. Like,
no.
we retail their cigars.
And we're still going to keep doing
we're
it.
gonna
It just
keep retailing it. So maybe they don't.
That's
give a
the
fuck, but
bad side of the industry, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's-
Like that's the
it's
shit I wish I didn't see because like I like their cigars and I like
yeah.
the people who are in charge of like the owners of those companies.
So
And I like
that's
what they're doing.
That's a key kind of point to harp on a little bit. This wasn't company issues. This were people issues.
Yep.
With two very particular people who
Yep.
just, acted like they had better things to do. And if you got better things to do, then it is what it is. And we're
Yep.
not going to, whatever.
Yeah, but that did kind of was a little frustrating because and I hadn't told you this, but Cigar Cop himself told me that a customer, and if you're listening to this, then I'm addressing you specifically, was listening to our Day 2 PCA podcast, and they were like, and Eric said that we didn't seem excited. It was like we were trying to force it a little bit, and I told him like, no, that's not the case whatsoever at all. We were tired, very tired from walking around. But two, we'd also come off a couple meetings that weren't great. It wasn't a great way to end the day, but that's business. Like,
So
it's
that's
not
the
going
other
to
thing
ruin
people
the
gotta
whole
remember.
experience.
PCA is not the big smoke.
No,
It's not,
we're there
or
to
the
do
great smoke.
business.
We're in meetings the entire time.
Yeah, like all the other stuff that we've talked about with why we want it back in Vegas, that's all ancillary and that's a perk, most certainly. But like the whole reason we're there is to do business with people.
I think a lot of people think we just get to walk around grabbing cigars, giving samples,
Right.
and doing all that. That's not how it is. Again, it's not the big smoke. This is not a consumer event where you're getting this big package. Like, try all of our new stuff. We're there to do business. We were in meetings every 30 minutes from the start of the show on Saturday to the end of the show on Sunday.
Yep.
Or the end of our show on Sunday.
Yep.
Like you said, we could have walked around probably here and there and done that, but we were going from, because one meeting would end quick, but the quicker than maybe we were scheduled, but the other meeting would run a little bit longer.
Well, and then we still had to eat lunch. We had to go to the bathroom. We had to find the booth that we needed to get to.
Yeah.
It's like we were just going. So if you are that person, whomever you may be, and you're listening to this, I hope you realize, like, PCA was awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It was a great time, but it's a lot. Like,
yeah,
it's a lot.
That's one of those things, like, you would never take it, consumers are not allowed. But if you could, I think their expectations would be dashed quickly as to what they maybe think happens there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a cool setup. Like, because if you're, like I said, if you're looking for that vibe of what you think that is, then you go to the Big Smoke, or you go to the Great Smoke in Florida, or whatever it is.
Well, it's like I was talking to another customer who works in the tech industry or medical, one of the two, and he asked me how PCA was, and it was like the day after we had gotten back, and I said, "Man, it was awesome, but I'm exhausted." And he was like, "Yeah, that's every trade show." And I was like,
it is a trade show.
And I was like, "Yeah,
like think of the industry that you work in. If you attend trade shows, think about walking around and getting stopped by somebody that you're, I'm sorry, that you can't or don't want to talk to, pitching something that is not good or whatever it may be, and that's what this is. You can't be who we are with our meetings and see everybody. It is a physical impossibility. There are plenty of booths that we would have loved to spend a couple minutes in that we just couldn't go see.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at Half Wheel's coverage, and they do a great job covering the show. And I saw like 25 booths, and I was like, they were there? It's like, didn't see them, don't remember them.
That's what Half Wheel's there to do.
Yep.
Right? They're there to spend 15 minutes in every single one of the booths, or maybe longer, and they're going through Monday, excuse me, and everything like that. We're there for business. And, we talked about that before we went, and that's why it's not a drag the entire crew down there. We have to get things done. Like, we've got a lot of stuff to get done. We got to make sure we're securing product for a portion of the year coming up, making sure we're getting our place in line for new stuff. And then you will see that reflected in the humidors, right? We've got, if you're wondering what is or isn't coming, we've already gotten in one of the new AJs.
Yep, we got the Enclave by Latios Diaz.
Yep, that's in. We are getting the 25th anniversary Aganorsa, should be here tomorrow probably. Yep. Again, we'll do that. Well, we talked about it a little bit, but we're doing pod with them. We'll harp on that in a minute here. But we've got the Rocky 30th will be here.
Rocky 30's coming. Basically everything, it sounded like, was coming in May, June, or July.
Yeah.
Sans a couple limited edition stuff like Foundation's 10th anniversary.
Yeah, and there'll be things, and some of these things, people... So the unfortunate reality when we're retailers and we consumers, they see us taking pictures of these things because we want to show them to them. And when you see a picture of it, you assume it's available.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. We showed a picture of the PCA exclusive Tatuaje.
Yep.
Right? Which we ordered. We got there in time to make sure they didn't sell out, and our meeting was early enough to make sure we secured those. Right on the order form. January 2026 is the expectation for that cigar.
Yep.
So it's like a lot of times you see that box. That's probably the only box there is.
Yep.
I can't even promise you that's that actual cigar. It may be just a different cigar with that band on it for merchandising purposes. So that doesn't come till 26. A lot of the Tatuaje stuff is spread out.
Legacy's into May. My Father Blue Honduran is June or July.
Yep.
Like JJ20 is June or July. New World 10th anniversary's into May, early June. And again, this is all subject to change. So we're telling you what they told us, but let's take Aganorsa 25th for an example. That was supposed to be here last year.
Yeah.
And it's just now coming now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially thankfully the AJ New World 10th anniversary, which is very good, it is supposed to come at the end of May, early June. It wasn't affected by the fires, but who knows what ancillary effects they have from the fires and whether or not that gets pushed out because they can't get it boxed up.
Yeah.
right? Like I mean boxed up in a package to be shipped, because apparently I guess the cigar's already boxed, but
Yeah.
we don't know, and there's a lot of stuff outside of our control and manufacturers' control for that matter. And the other thing too is
I'll stop you right there, just while we stay on that. An unfortunate reality, you and I both are, and we kind of preach this when it comes to our staff, and sometimes we have to continue to preach it, which is under promise, over deliver, right? The representation at the show do not have a tendency to do that. They have a tendency to overpromise a little bit and underdeliver it.
Yep.
Like, tell me it's coming in October, and I get it in September, stoked. Tell me it's coming in September and it comes in October, I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean?
let's bring up a great example of this is LFD's 30th anniversary, which we have the over-under of it coming by 2050.
Yeah, ordered it last year at the show.
Order it last year. They gave us an answer when they think it's coming. I'm not even telling anybody because I don't want anybody to be disappointed because I don't believe them.
Yeah, I don't believe them for a second.
No, it's like, I think companies that have good track, like I wholeheartedly believe my father when they say Blue is coming in June or July.
I do too.
Because they have a great track record of fulfilling those promises.
Yeah, I do too.
Same thing with Perdomo with the Legacy. I believe AJ, if something happens, I don't fault him though because of the fire.
There's a clear
I wouldn't fault
when
them
it comes
for
to that company right now. Yeah,
but Tatuaje, as much as I love him, 7th Corojo and Tuxtla and Fausto is supposed to be next month. If it comes by July, I'll be happy. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with the PCA 26. I'm glad they put January on the paper.
Yeah, at least to give you some expectation because, you know what I mean? We're ordering it in April.
Well, it's
they're telling you, you tell me it's not coming till next year. I can tell people it's not coming till next year.
Correct.
That's good.
Correct. And it's like and we didn't take a picture of it, and I actually missed it, but apparently the Tatuaje 898, which is a special cigar Pete's made to model the Partagas 898 Cuban, was on display at the show. And instead of saying like the 20th anniversary jars that you saw a couple years ago, this is coming, he just said, it's a project I'm working on.
Yep.
It gets you excited about it, but there's no release date. I'd much rather it be that than...
would much rather it be that.
Then it's like, it's going to be here in October. And then 3 years later, it's like, the cigar's finally shipping. It's like, I forgot about that.
Yeah. What else new that we would expect to see on our shelves?
The new Esteban Carrera.
Oh, Esteban Carrera. That's right. Yeah.
Los Caños or something like that.
Los Caños. Yeah.
Sweet Cap next couple weeks. Apparently.
This is not an affront to the folks at Esteban. Great meeting with Esteban.
Craig Cunningham.
Shout out Craig Cunningham. The legend. He's not listening to the podcast. I can promise you that because he is doing other things
that every man would want to be doing.
He is living the dream.
Yeah.
And there was no one person that I wanted you to meet based on expectations more than Craig, and he did not disappoint.
Exceeded.
We won't go into the conversation we had with him, but let's just say after the first 5 minutes where he talked about the cigar, the remaining 35, 40 minutes we talked about with him were electric.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when we left there, I was laughing, I was smiling at you. I was like, I told you. And the look on your face like, yo, now I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Like I get it now why where that company slots themselves and everything like that. And to say that he is living every man's dream right now,
that's maybe an understatement.
Maybe an understatement.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is I enjoy their cigars. They've been price friendly for us in the humidor. They do a good job with them. This is the most kind of that I think I've been with one of their new releases because it really fits nicely with what a good chunk of our consumers smokes.
Yep. And it was good. And that's coming from someone who doesn't ever smoke a sweet cap cigar.
Mm-hmm.
So excited for that. Obviously, Fuente has a myriad of new releases. I'm going to say them, but I'm not giving any release dates because they don't know.
Yep.
And they just don't know. The Don Carlos 90 Años, I am probably the most excited about because of price point and what it is.
If it comes and meets for what we were told, it has potential just to be a rock star cigar.
Gangbuster.
Yeah.
Yep. They've got the new Blood of the Bull, but it's a Spanish name that I don't remember.
Yep.
They're taking a wine approach on Opus and doing those Opus 5-packs that are vintage dated, which is
that's
great
really
idea.
Cool. So like if you're an Opus person and you had a specific date, or we'll call it vintage, because that's kind of how they're doing it, that you liked or it meant something to you, whether it's a wedding date, birth date, or something like that, you're going to see releases of, I'm just going to throw dates out there, making them up, so don't hold me to it, but I do believe we saw like Opus 2017, some 19 and things like that.
Yep.
I don't know how many they have, how they're going to be allocated or anything like that, but that potential is out there for those.
Really cool. They had the River Valley, which is a rare something that has a Connecticut River Valley broadleaf wrapper on it. And then
Opus 25th.
Opus 25th, the new Opus Magistrate. I keep calling it the Magistrate, but that's not the name of it. So a lot of fun stuff coming from them, but as always, it's limited. Who knows how much we get, and who knows when it's coming.
Yeah, for anybody who knows how we do Fuente Rarities, when we know, you'll know.
Yeah.
When you're able to buy it from us, you'll know. Yeah. We'll reach out to you. What did you already say it? What was the other one with my father outside of Blue?
Oh, JJ20.
JJ20.
Yep. JJ20, great price point for a limited edition from them at $22.
And they're doing it similar to what they've done, like they did with the Jaime Limited, which is I don't remember the box count, but there's going to be one
JJ Maduro.
In the.
It's a different size.
It's a different size that'll come in the box with it. Yep.
Some new Illusione stuff coming.
New Illusione stuff. New sizes in Roma.
New sizes in Roma. We've already got one of them in. We got the new Volstead Toro in. For anyone that doesn't smoke Roma because you say they don't make normal sizes, I get it. But they have Toros now.
Yeah.
You should smoke them.
Toros.
It's great.
Awesome cigars.
Great price point.
Awesome price point.
Great price point. $10.
They stick to it.
Yep.
Which I really appreciate.
Yep. Obviously, Aganorsa's got JFR 20th coming out.
Yep.
They've got a
Supreme Leaf. Second run of Supreme Leaf. That one is going to be
25th.
Is it a double Corona?
No, it's a Box Press Toro.
Box Press Toro. Okay.
Yep. We got to smoke both of those, and they were good. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming, and I think this year's really good. My biggest takeaway, I don't want to harken back to something we've talked about on the pod before. I saw 5 cigars that we're going to be bringing in that were over $20. Yeah. Everything else was under $20, and most of it was under $15, and I'm so happy to see it. And to your point that you made in your wish list for the year, it's all core.
So that was the exact point I was just about to say. Yep. We harped on it. They didn't listen to us. It wasn't this was already planned. We didn't know, but there was a clear emphasis at the show, in my opinion, on the things that we saw on core lined production, supplied cigars.
Yep.
Stuff that you're going to be able to get. Now, I can't promise that they won't be so popular they go on back order here and there, but there's plenty of limiteds. I'm not saying that, but stuff that people plan to have in their portfolio, sans a disappointment for long term. Like the Roma sizes, those are going to be sizes they're always going to have, would be my guess. The My Father Blue, the Honduran, they've made a clear commitment to the Honduran factory. That's not going anywhere. That's going to be a regular production cigar.
Legacy.
All 3 wrapper leaves. That's going to be on shelves for years to come. Give me some more. I know there's more. And
obviously JFR 20.
JFR 20.
That's not a limited edition. Yep. The new Illusione stuff with Group of 5, Epernay Maduro's coming out. We got to see, obviously, the Tatuaje stuff that we already talked about. Foundation's doing the Wise Man Lanceros, which is really cool.
That AJ,
the Eladios Diaz.
Eladios Diaz. I keep saying El Gloria. I don't know. Eladios Diaz. That's going to be on shelves.
Regular production.
Yep.
Just a lot of really good core product.
Drew the Dominicana. We haven't even touched on Drew. that, we harped on this probably twice in both podcasts. We're selling through our initial order of already. That's already on the shelves. That's the new Deadwood, the Dominican Deadwood. That is a cigar that will be in their lineup.
We've already got to reorder it.
We already have to reorder it.
We're
2 weeks from getting it. We already have to reorder it.
Yep.
That's going to be on shelves forever.
Yep.
If it may end up being one of their top SKUs or top Deadwood SKUs.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll say is the things that were over $20, I felt like were deserving of that price point.
Yes.
JJ 20th,
good.
Foundation 10th,
good.
Aganorsa 25th,
good.
Rocky Patel 30 in the limited edition size. Regular core Rocky 30 is under 20, but they're doing a limited edition size that they're only making a couple thousand boxes of. That's got special tobacco in it. That's more expensive. And then the Padron Black PB 98 or 99, which is a 6.5 by 60. Like those were the 5 cigars that we'll get that will be over $20, and all of them either fit the current pricing model like Padron does, or make sense.
Yeah,
they're that expensive.
Yeah,
but they're not in that $100 price point. We didn't see an increase of that, and I'm very happy to see it.
The other thing I would say, even though, well, now I'm gonna shout a person out. One of the meetings that we didn't care for, I will say we placed an order and we got that product.
Yep. Which
we hadn't been getting very much of.
Yep.
The LFD stuff.
Yep.
It actually came in, so maybe they're
some of it,
not all of it. You're up,
but
maybe they're squashing some of their production issues.
You smoked the new Suave, good
price
point.
It was really good.
It was good.
I thought the price point was really good.
Yep.
Don't know when we'll see it, folks. We ordered it.
They gave us a date, but we ain't telling you.
Yeah. 2027.
That's right.
Under promising here.
Yeah, that's right.
So we were able to get stuff from them. So that was maybe a good sign. I'm trying to go through the mental Rolodex of our meetings here. Some new stuff from Villiger. We met with them. And then try to run my brain through the humidor. Who are we missing?
Obviously we got the new Warp stuff in partially.
New Warp stuff coming.
Gallus Family Absolute.
Yep.
We'll see the Corto Maduro. We'll still see the El Oso later on this year. We got the new Zeno Cigarillos coming, which are going to be good, I think.
Yeah, I think it fits a nice market with people who smoke that kind of stuff.
We got the Camacho limited edition for this year coming, which again $17 if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
We saw. What else did we see? I'm going through.
And we had some good discussions with people we don't carry yet.
Yeah.
We had a good meeting with Omar, and possibly bringing some of that stuff in, at least to Greensboro, and testing some things out with Fratello.
West Tampa.
We had a nice meeting with Crux.
Yeah, those guys were really cool.
Yeah, they asked for some time from us, and we did that, and they made good use of it, and it was a nice meeting. With nice meeting the guys who are running that kind of show now and stuff like that. So that was really good. Who else am I missing? The Drew stuff. The only thing new from Drew, right, was just Dominicana.
And then the ST DuPont Liga 10 Humidor, which we're not going to get.
It
looked nice,
unless you're listening to this podcast and you say you want one, you're going to pay for it up front. Let us know.
It'll be $4,000 if you want one.
Yeah, it's $4,000. So
I think
if you want it, we'll order it for you.
Maybe it was $2,000. Either way,
our cost was $2,000. Yeah.
Yep.
Drew, we talked about the Padron was the limited. We talked Tatawahe Foundation.
Nothing really new from Oliva.
No, they haven't really had anything new in quite a while.
They're just kind of doing their thing.
They kind of do their thing. That's right. Perdomo, AJ, Aganorsa. Yeah, I think we kind of covered everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good stuff coming in and everything like that.
Yep.
So overall, the show was good.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Again, I prefer it in Las Vegas. They're gonna go back. And maybe it's one of those absent makes the heart grow fonder. So maybe 2 years in one spot and then back makes you kind of maybe 2 years in Vegas and you'll be like, yeah, let's go back to New Orleans for a year.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be that kind of feeling. And, you don't get too tired of it or anything. Because you know how you and I both feel. Both love going to Las Vegas. 72 hours is our time limit.
Perfect.
You start the clock. You get the hell out of Dodge before it sucks you in and keeps you there forever.
That's right. How's that cigar?
It's great. It's great. It's definitely medium. It picks up a little bit towards the back half in strength a little bit. Cuban-esque is a great way to describe it. It's really good.
Good.
It's really good. I would be very interested to have smoked it a year after it was packaged, though.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that is thing, kind of went. But I've got a little bit more to go. So, so let's touch on, that wraps up PCA. Let's talk a little bit of upcoming. So if you're an existing customer, you probably already know. If you're a new customer, you just listen to the podcast, you may not know. New location coming hopefully in the next 2.5 weeks. We get open in Durham. It's our first ever bar concept. 12 beers on tap, full wine bar, big lounge. We're working hard on that. So be on the lookout for that stuff.
Here's a question for you, because we like to. You're the business side. I'm more of the retailer side. So
good cop, bad cop.
Sure. What made you want to try a bar concept? Because it's new, it's exciting, but it's also, I gotta imagine, a little scary.
A little scary. Number one is opportunity. You know how kind of I like to, and anybody who maybe knows me or knows my background in the different business I own and stuff like that, I'll be the first to admit a lot of the stuff I've come is right place, right time. And I think that happens with a lot of people who would call themselves entrepreneurs or are in own businesses or whatever. You can be in the right place at the right time, but you have to act, right? And you have to seize those opportunities. And we've been able to do that with new stores. That was very much the case with like our Southport store, and this was a space that became available that right off the jumped off at the page at us. Like the look of it, the location is a location that general area is an area that's underserved, that we've talked about, an area that we would like to target. And you take that in combination with the risk mitigation that it came along with because of what we were able to get back in the deal. It became a no-brainer. Now, is it an expensive rent place and stuff like that? Absolutely. Based on initial kind of feedback, started to get really excited. There are a lot of people asking about when this is getting open. We want to be there and everything like that. So it was one of those things. The other part of it is, if you're familiar with our locations, it's only 16 minutes from the Mebane location. So we're moving the Mebane location there. It didn't make good business sense to have both of those locations because of how many customers we were serving in the Mebane location that are probably closer to this location already, right? So we can still service a large percentage of the customers that were in the Mebane store. And it started to become clear to me that the Mebane store success was probably capped without it being a place that you could smoke in. So moving it to this location, grabbing a much larger chunk of the population while keeping a good chunk of our existing customer base at that store, it really became a no-brainer. Now, did it come together really, really fast? So fast that it kind of like gets you a little unnerved because of how much, there's still a lot of money I had to drop in there and everything like that. So, I'm dropping a load of money into doing that store while also trying to make sure I'm buying cigars for our existing stores, go into the trade show where we're dropping funds larger than we do at any point in time of the year. Does it make me sick to my stomach at night? Yeah, it absolutely does. But that's kind of like the world I live in. We were on vacation with our friends. I've got a friend of mine, Matt. Shout out to Matt White, not Matt Thomas in this particular instance, who, when I was kind of filling him in on dates and what was going on and getting ABC permits, and this was coming for here, and then we're off to New Orleans, then I'm here with them, and then I'm back doing this. His exact words were, I started to realize that you just like to live in chaos. And kind of that's where I'm at my best. I like, well, my other buddy Matt, he always has this thing. He's like, if he feels that he's kind of getting stagnant or complacent in his businesses, he'll just buy something really fucking expensive. And then he's like, well, shit, I've got to pay for it. So now I've got to get out here and hustle. So it's like, he's like, I'll just go buy a new truck, or whatever it is. Like, I got to pay for it now. I've got to hustle more and stuff like that. So it is nerve-wracking. It's not the first nerve-wracking thing I've been a part of. So it's not unfamiliar territory, but it's one of those things. I'd rather go down in flames than not giving it a try.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how it's been with everything for me personally, and how I do it. I would rather go down swinging and giving it a try than a year from now having somebody else in the industry grab that spot and have a bunch of success from it and then being like, I knew it. I should have done it. And I would rather have the feeling of, how am I going to get this done, than the feeling of regret and kicking myself for not doing it.
Yeah, I get that. And I mean, for me, obviously I'm excited about it. And you know this, I want to spread the good news of the Pipe and Pint and the brand and what we do, because I believe in it so much that, I hope we have 20 stores one day, right? And then that we are a destination location wherever you are. And you know that if you come to the Pipe and Pint, you're going to get the best cigars, the best customer service, and the best experience.
Yep.
But I'm not the one that's having to put the funds up for it. I'm not the one that's having to deal with the logistics of it.
It's a hard dynamic. And I think, as you and I have worked closer and closer on this kind of stuff, I think it's easier for you to see it from my side of those things.
Absolutely.
And it's easier for me to see it from your side of the things, and yours and Robbie's and whoever may be in the store from your side of the things. And I think that, like I said, I think that works both ways, where you see it from my angle, while like sometimes I have to we've got to rein it in on something or whatever it is, because it's got to make it work. Because I try to, you try to make everybody happy, but it's a hard balance, because we're a small company. We all work very close to each other. We are friends, you have us over at your house and we hang out together and stuff like that. So it's an interesting dynamic. I employ some of my family. That's a different dynamic. So it's I keep that stuff. I don't want to say I keep that to myself, but I don't want you guys to get burdened by that stuff either, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? That's not stuff for you guys to worry about, because your guys' concern is with the third person in this relationship, which is the customer.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, and I've told you this before, you take great care of us, and it makes us want to be successful for us, but also for you and for the brand.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting dynamic, like you said, that works both ways. But it's like I told you, I was talking to my wife who owns a wedding planning business, and there's a possibility she's may buy out her partner, and she was talking about I don't know how to do the taxes. I don't know how to do this, do that. And I got to thinking, God forbid, obviously, if something were ever happen, and it was like, Ethan, you've got to do tobacco tax and payroll and ABC permits and OTP and all this stuff. I would not know
health insurance.
I wouldn't know where to begin.
Yeah, and just cash flow management.
Yep.
Owning a retail store, and anybody who's in that space knows, one of the biggest grinds with this business and any business who's like that is cash flow management. You have to know what's coming in and manage it so you can pay what's going out.
Yep.
And that kind of thing. And all on top in making sure we're not missing payroll, making sure that, we're able to have health insurance through here, that health insurance is covered, and those kind of things. Because, I don't mind in any of the businesses I've ever been involved in it or anything like that, laying down the law, but I also don't like disappointing anybody who works for me. Do you know what I mean? It's a tough dynamic, but I do appreciate you saying that, because I do think that you get to see a little bit behind the curtains. And I've told you this before, like I didn't start the Pipe and Pint, right? Larry did. I saw an opportunity when he approached me about what I think it could be and for which the time I had it. I feel like I do own the business, but I feel like a curator of it for a period of time.
Right.
Like I would never want the Pipe and Pint to go down with me, if that makes sense, right? Like I see the Pipe and Pint as a brand that succeeds many, many years past when I'm involved in it or anything like that. So it's tough at times. It's fun basically all the time.
Yeah.
We work in a cool... You have people who will tell you, if you, and it's way easier said than done. The fake business coaches and everything. The thing they love to harp on is, do what you love, and then you'll love what you do, kind of thing. Now, we are in this business, and there's tough things to do, but we do get to do what we like doing. We get to be around cigars, around beer, around wine. We get to see behind the curtain. We get to meet the cool people who run the business. We get to become friends with them.
Yep.
We are friends with a lot of people who are the big names in a lot of these businesses. And then meeting these people in the wine industry, in the beer industry. We've got to collaborate on our own beers. We get to collaborate on our own cigars. Put right into the microphone. Collaborate on our own cigars. We had pipes made for us, those types of things. This brand has recognition across the industry. Like people know who we are, and we continue to kind of grow it in that way so that it continues to be able to thrive. Yeah. Right. It is the literal definition. If you're not growing, you're dying. Yeah. Not everybody subscribes to that in a lot of industries, in this industry, I think specifically. But we're now in 2025, and when Larry started it in 1998, right? Mm-hmm. Business was just done differently, right? We do this podcast because we like doing the podcast. It's fun doing this. We get recognized from doing the podcast. Now we have people at PCA telling us it's cool, telling us they like it. They watch it on YouTube, watch it on social, listen to it. Excuse me. But it's almost something that we have to do in 2025. It sounds silly. We do the fun social media videos. We do the social media posts because that's kind of how business is done in 2025. And it's not going away. So the later we adapt to those types of things, the tougher it becomes, right?
Yeah. Well, and that was something that was hard for me to, I don't want to say get a hold of, or even come to terms with, but I guess come to terms with is the phrase I'll use because, and I don't know if I ever told you this, I started the Instagram for the Pipe and Pint in 2014 when I started here. Yeah. Because I thought the Pipe and Pint needed an Instagram. Yep. And I used it, for marketing, but I also used it as like this is where I can post my cigar pictures. Because at the time it was just one store and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. To where now it's like we're having conversations about what are we posting this week? What are we going to be? Who are we going to be engaging with? Like
what gets us the most impact?
And it's been fun to see and do and learn and everything like that. But at the same time, it's also like sometimes, and you'll know what I mean when I say this, sometimes I just wish it was just selling cigars. Sure. And I'm sure you probably do too.
100%, yeah.
But then when things like this come about, new location, new market, new opportunity, new place for people to learn who we are and what we do, it gets me excited. And so that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because it is a little bit of a behind the curtains, behind the scenes question. But I do think it's important for people to understand because, like, when it comes to bringing these cigars in from PCA or making decisions about a new store, it's not something that we take lightly at all. We want to make sure that we're delivering the best, like I said, experience, customer service, and cigars to our customers at any location. that we're at,
100%.
whether it's a new one or one that we open in the future.
And this new location specifically, and like the social piece of stuff like that. And if you're listening, you're going to get to start to see more of it, because we're going to start doing the pod from there, because the setup is great.
Yep.
We'll probably do more like daytime pods and stuff like that. That won't matter from the sense of when you're listening to it or anything like that. But we'll probably do it during open hours, where there'll be some maybe some customer engagement and stuff like that. But that location, it's not that long ago where you would be very, especially with our industry, where we're very limited in how you can market.
Yep.
Right? Because we can't Google advertise. We can't Facebook advertise. We can't Instagram advertise.
Yep.
Like, we can't boost those posts because of the tobacco content and stuff like that. So you have to get creative in how we do it. And that place is so visually appealing that nice social media pictures and videos of it engage those people. And we talk about it, how we handle one of the more successful things that we implemented early on was like the loyalty system.
Yep.
Now, if you're a customer, you know what that is. Even if you're not a customer, you know what these loyalty systems are, right? You go any of the places you go to. If you're in Starbucks or whatever it is, you're getting points and you get a free. It's back to the old Subway Sub Club punch card, right? You get something in return for that, right? For being a great customer, for being a repeat customer, you get free product and discount on products or whatever it may be. But what it does for us is it allows us to capture that information, obviously with the consumer's permission, and then we can email, we can text message. We've talked about this, that text messaging for us is probably the most effective way for us to deliver a message to our consumers as to about what's going on. It reaches the most people. We're all guilty of, if you feel your phone buzz, you're checking it. That works in our favor. So we need to be doing these things to continue to grow it. And these things have helped us get this reach where now when we're opening a location like this, that we've seen this just groundswell of excitement of former customers who have moved to that area who are excited about it, existing customers who may be visiting that area, people who are in that area who are underserved currently. We had somebody, Robbie and I were there today working on the space, literally knock on the door, excited about it, like asked to see the space, come on in, take a look, that kind of thing. So it's a balance, and we do sometimes things that are goofy on social media that seem nonsensical, but we did, great example. We did the Office video last year. What does it do in relation to sell cigars? Maybe not anything, but it was our highest engaged post by far. Tons of shares on it, tons of people commenting on it, and it introduced staff.
Yeah.
Right. Get to know the people who are in your store for the Pipe and Pint, who is servicing you, who's talking about cigars with you and stuff like that. So a simple kind of video that we did that was a lot of fun for us to do, and people talked about it with us, how much they liked it and everything like that. But you catch on with these things, and it helps to throw kind of a blanket over the customer service and the family, kind of a loosely used word, but like that kind of like communal environment that we kind of try to convey to our customers, that like, and somebody asked me about this, an employee that we're interviewing, and he was surprised but excited because the first thing he asked is like, what's the membership going to be for the new location? And my answer was, there is no membership. We're not turning anybody away. You want to come in and buy cigars or drink a glass of wine or have a pint of beer at the Pipe and Pint, you are welcome to come in there. It does, you're coming in a suit and tie, or you're coming in shorts and a t-shirt. Yep. Good to go, man. Come in, hang out, no problem.
Yep. I think the other thing it does, real quick, is it separates us from the internet. And I think that is one of the biggest uphill battles that we fight, because even with our website, like, we'll have people place an order on the website and we'll send out just a perfunctory thanks for your order email. And that little bit is something that people have come to not expect anymore.
Yeah.
And when they get that service, it's memorable to them, and then they remember who we are.
Yeah.
And
They start
helps.
to feel a connection. Like,
Yep.
this is somebody who's taking care of the things I ordered. Yep. If there's an issue with it, we reach out immediately.
Yep.
If for some reason there's some sort of inventory issue, we correct it. We go above. We talk about this all the time. Like, if you ordered from us and we couldn't fulfill your cigar, we're going to call you and let you know that you're probably going to get a cigar to replace it if that's what you want, but you're probably not getting one, you're probably getting two.
Yep.
Like, we will go above and beyond to make sure that your experience here is unmatched.
Yep.
Right? So it's an interesting dynamic, and I know Larry would tell you, like, you know how Larry is, like, yep. It's just like, it's probably not within his kind of like scope of what he wanted to do. And there's going to be something goofy 25 years from now that I'm going to be like, I don't want to even participate in that. You take care of that. You know what I mean? Yep. And the way technology goes, it happens so fast. And you're right. Like, we're in a constant battle with the online retailers. We do what we can to convince you and treat you in a way that you want to come here or even just order from our website. We have a ton of repeat buyers on the website, but we're battling against that at all times. And that's an age-old battle. We're not the only industry that deals with having to sell against the internet. So we do those things in store. We've got, we can touch on some of these. We got, if you're listening, we got great events. We got Cigar Club back for this year. May, June, July, and August. We're taking it on the road. So May's in Greensboro. June is in Winston-Salem. July is in High Point. August will be in the New Durham store. We have our baseball game on the books. If you've never been to Cigars in the Park, you'll get an email about that probably in July, start July, for ticket availability. Awesome event we do with everybody every year. Everybody loves it. We have our golf tournament already on the books for this year. We have our A&T Homecoming on the books in October. On the books with Drew Estate, Will McFall doing that for us. We're going to have the grand opening, obviously, soon of Durham. We sat down and we were planning it the other day, and it's like, bam, there's our year, our sales season. Then by the time we get through the golf tournament, we're headed into Pipe Show in November. Then we're at Black Friday. Then we're at Christmas. We're talking about possible cigar dinner maybe at the end of the year in the Durham shop. So we try to do these things, and they're a lot of work. I mean, we know how much goes into like the golf tournament alone, getting that planned. But we do them to create that sense of this is a place that you want to be at and you want to be associated with. And when you want to be at a place and associate with that place, the tendency is to support that place. Yep. So it works hand in hand with everything. So the new place is nerve-wracking but exciting. It looks awesome. Like I said, we're going to be doing the pods from over there, so you're going to get to see it a lot. We expect a lot of people who are probably listening to the podcast to probably visit it repeatedly. I'm hoping the hurricanes go deep this year because we can do some hurricane watch parties. Would be awesome over there. So we've got everything. We got the beer on tap, pouring wine, plenty of lounge seating, TVs all over the place to watch golf, hockey, football in the fall. I think I was talking with Robbie on this. I believe this is the 30th anniversary for the Carolina Panthers this year. I think 25, 26, 30th anniversary. Got a little something in the back of my head for that, especially with all the stores across North Carolina and everything. So we can talk about things like that. It's going to be a big deal. And like I said, I'd rather go down swinging, giving it the old college try than regret it on the back end. Yep. And we talked about this. We've done things to mitigate the risk. So it's not going to, you're going to still see the pipe for a long, long, long time to come. But it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yep.
Last thing before we go. Next week, recording podcast with the one, the only Terrence Riley of Aganorsa. We're recording that next Wednesday, so that'll be a pod coming out probably the week after that. That's going to be exciting. That'll be fun. That'll be our first kind of manufacturer interview on the pod.
Do you think we can convince him to do Hot Ones chicken wings with us?
Maybe. This could be a remote, so we probably have to do that one in person with us. We could just send him a shitload of hot wings and lie to him that we're having the same ones, and just light him on fire. But expectation is that we'll have 25th anniversary to smoke that night. Talk with him about that. Talk with him all things Aganorsa. Maybe what he sees as trends going forward in the cigar industry, what he's maybe excited about, what maybe annoys him a little bit with the industry and stuff like that.
I'm hoping the one thing we get out of it is a clear answer from a manufacturer's perspective on tariffs that we can share with the consumer.
Yeah, that would be great.
Because we have seen some price increases today, actually, of tariffs affecting cigars. It's going to happen. I'm curious to see what he thinks the best way to handle that is, and how Aganorsa is going to handle it, and just his perspective on it, and a little bit how it works too, because I'm curious as a consumer, specifically with cigars, if you're getting tariffed on the import cost of the cigars and not the wholesale cost of the cigars, how does that work? And that's a question I plan on asking.
Yeah, I would love to know his thinking on that, because I'm not sure every manufacturer treats it the same way. And how they pass the cost along. Which is a concern I have when it comes to price point on that stuff. So that'll be an exciting interview. And he's always electric, and he's a friend of the program.
Talk a little Boston sports with him.
We'll talk a little Boston sports with him. He'll be excited to do that. We'll start him out right with that. We'll give him some softballs right off the front, and then go with the hard stuff. Yeah, we'll start immediately with Boston sports, and then go right into what do you think about tariffs.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But hopefully by then this cough has gone away, which has been lingering on me for 2 goddamn weeks. It's just annoying the living shit out of me. And it is cold related, not to what Steve says. Shout out Sinani. But sound good?
Yeah, man.
All right. We'll see everybody on the next one.
Looking
Thanks,
forward
guys.
to it.